Chocolate. For special occasions like Halloween and on regular days for comfort, we as a first world country are cultured to indulge in anything chocolate. An industry valued at 130.56 billion in 2019, the global chocolate market is predicted to rise 4.6% annually since 2020 until 2027. So why is a thriving industry accepting the use of unethical practices that exploit cocoa farmers? Because cocoa is often the main product found in the global south in underdeveloped countries like Ivory Coast, farmers depend on their cocoa farming as a primary income source, but receive less than $1.25 US daily, which is well below the abilities to lift families out of their state of poverty. Our team is looking at the unethical methods and traditions still being used to keep up with global demand. The use of child labor in the cocoa industry. It's a cheaper form of help and much easier to hide in the journey of our product's production, because handlers can claim these children are learning a trade while providing their families with extra income. This becomes hard to swallow once you recognize that these children are not only well below a country's legal working age, but being mistreated, overworked, and provided with only dangerous tools like machetes in place of safety equipment.
We're going to be looking at 4 of the main issues around the use of child labor in the cocoa industry. The first is poverty. Many of the issues stem with poverty in these low-cost sourcing areas like Ghana and the Ivory Coast. Oftentimes, children are pressured by their families and sold off to harvest cocoa out of the need to contribute to their family's income. The second is cheap labor. Large companies will often overlook the ethical dilemma of child laborers due to the low cost in production. Child laborers from ages 5 to 17 will make very low wages. Over a quarter of them are working in abusive conditions, and all of them are working instead of pursuing an education. Next is greenwashing. A relevant example of greenwashing is seen with the chocolate giant Nestle when they introduced the Cocoa Plan in 2011 to address the sourcing of their cocoa. As promising as this initiative seemed, unfortunately, child laborers are still involved in the harvesting process from the cacao tree. Their public image was altered to seem more ethical, but in fact their practices did not change. They actually got worse. And lastly, we have consumer ignorance. We found consumers will generally not question the origins and sourcings of their product. This allows large companies to exploit their laborers without question and without their reputation being put in question.
Our team's speculative focus is on the child labor within the harvesting of cocoa. By looking at child labor through the lens of the future cone, we've ideated different futures, one with a positive changes to child labor and the other if child labor were to continue or worsen. We have narrowed it down specifically on these 2 positive concepts, the plausible of reinforcing ethically sourced cocoa and the probable of being transparent about production practices. Our interest in transparency of production practices meant that we could critique on how these companies have handled their supply chains, showing the big contrast between the lives of children who work in harvesting cocoa and those who enjoy consuming it. The plausible, reinforcing ethically sourced cocoa, meant we would focus more on the working conditions and the pay that these children or families would get.
Here are some design decisions that our team has ideated from the opportunities that we have gathered. The first being a more probable approach by implementing production transparency in the packaging designs of chocolate products. These aim to incite a critical reflection through visuals that can either be informative or ironic. We have also looked at stitching together sets of images or videos through meaningful ways in order to tell an impactful story. The compositions could then form into a larger shape such as holding hands or a broken heart. A plausible direction could be implementing the design in the stores themselves, where products are paid with physical labor instead of money. The payment would mirror the hours farmers have to spend in order to earn enough for the price of a chocolate bar.